All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 26th day of September 2023. I want to introduce the panelists here in studio. We have Philip Kisii, a leadership and governance expert, but also former boss of the Nairobi City Council. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Then we have Senator Isaac Mwaura. Good morning.
Good morning. It's been a long time, Sam.
A very long time. What have you been up to?
I've been up and down, serving the nation in different capacities. Yes.
How are you faring now?
I'm okay. I'm fine.
Interesting.
Yes.
It's been 1 year since the election.
Yes.
And a lot has happened.
Yes.
Good signs coming?
We pray for the best. Unajua tulipatiwa CS tukanyang'anywa kwa mdomo. But we are fine and well, and we hope for that. We are at the Court of Appeal.
Yeah.
And we hope that we will succeed. We pray.
Any hearing date set or not?
It's on 4th of October, but let it come out.
Okay, so that's next
I'm
week.
praying for you, my brother.
Hopefully, yes.
I hope you get it, but not 50 CSs. Surely. We can do it less.
How many would you want?
I mean, a maximum of 20, 23. Maximum.
23.
Yeah, because my brother has to get a job, you know.
Well, let's leave that to the courts.
Okay.
We thank God and we hope that for the best.
Okay.
But you've been fine. I've been seeing you trying to karanga watu. Wewe Sam, I hope
I'm just asking.
You become very famous. I see you trending on Twitter.
Senator, don't go there. I'm just asking questions.
No, but you're doing well. You're doing well. You're doing well.
Can I just say I will take responsibility for the questions, not the answers? So this morning on the Daily Nation, new KCSE grading boost for students is the main story there. But you see that you're on your own. UDA tells Cherargei on term limits. Then Mr. Deputy President is saying that what split? Mount Kenya leaders are united, insists the Deputy President. Of course, you may have seen that clip on Sunday at a church place in Nyeri County, where he was talking about the region, speaking in one voice, that he mobilized it to rally behind President William Ruto in the election of 2022. Then I'm going nowhere, says Raila. The day I decide to go back to Bondo, I will not ask for anyone's permission. I will find my way there. Certainly that time has not yet come. I am still here, so let them shut up. On the front page of the Standard, reading Uhuru's script, a year after taking the reins of power, the Kenya Kwanza government is implementing projects it campaigned against, albeit with different names, and talking about the BBI project that has been couched as bipartisan talks. There are questions on which way, on debt management, bipartisan talks, Huduma number versus Maisha number, and the office of the Prime Minister, which now the current administration is talking about. Entrenching the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary in the Constitution, and that is part of the agenda of the National Dialogue Committee that has been meeting at the Bomas of Kenya. I want us to begin with what Senator Cherargei is talking about, term limits, which his suggestion, has received a lot of reaction, some supporting, some condemning it and saying that it's actually something the country should not be thinking of, because he suggests that we increase the presidential term from 5 years to 7 years, a maximum of 2 terms, and part of the reason is that the elections are very divisive and they interfere with the sort of delivery work that the president can engage in. Philip, let me begin with you. Do you see any merit in such kind of a conversation, or should it just be dismissed as UDA is telling Cherargei that he's on his own?
You know, Sam, dreams are valid. And a man is allowed to dream as many times as possible. So don't stop a man from dreaming. But I must say that that is a very bad and dangerous dream. Because it's very simple. What a man cannot do in 5 years or in 10 years cannot be done even if that man or woman was added another 5, 10, 20 years. So we must get into this culture of appreciating the fact that when you are given a position of responsibility, that you are only one amongst very many people who can do the same job. So as somebody who is a good leader or somebody who exercises a sound leadership, you must be able to fit within the framework of a country's vision or a company vision. Now, the time you're given to run that vision be it 2 years, be it 5 years, please do what you promised to do within that time.
Right.
When your time is up, please pack off and go peacefully, because you're a good leader. You've been able to build capacity within the team that you have left behind or within the team that will come to carry the vision forward. So a vision is not a person's vision. A national vision or a country's vision, is a shared vision. Anybody can be given an opportunity to provide leadership at any point in time. Right. Therefore, Senator Cherargei, is allowed to dream. Please don't stop the man from dreaming, but it is a bad dream. We should not be talking about extension of term limits. We should actually be talking about reducing the term limits. I would have agreed with him if he said, listen, that because, this one seat has attracted a lot of interest. Can we limit it to 1 term? 7 year, 1 term. You do if you're lucky, you run your term for 7 years and you go home. For heaven's sake, this culture of people wanting to die in office, or struggling to extend your term because power is very sweet.
Right.
It is sweet, but please go home. The other things, like my brother Maura has told you, he's doing. He's serving the nation in other capacities. For heaven's sake, go home when your time comes.
Okay.
Don't hang into that office. That is why these offices are called public offices.
Right.
They don't belong to you, for heaven's sake.
Right. And Senator, why is it so important that we even have a conversation about allowing the president more time to implement his agenda? Do you stand the risk of missing the point that at the end of the day, it is service to the people?
Yeah, I think Sam, thank you very much once again. And I can see my good friend Bhara Maalim is here. And he's even more experienced than me because he's been out and in and now. So I'm sure you'll also talk about it. Let me say this, Sam. It takes about 24 months for a government to settle. And then, funny enough, by the 36th month or so, we start campaigning. So within a 5-year period, about 40% of the time is spent trying to get to power and to settle. And then the rest is history. Now, if you have 5 years and then you have another 5 years, that is good time enough. Even if you are to say you spend maybe 3 years in the usual mumbo jumbo of politics, then the rest you can still work for the people. And we have a very good example. I still want to refer to President Mwai Kibaki. He did not manage the politics very well, but we can credit him a lot for what the country was, the state that he was in, and what he was able to achieve. Right. It's the same case. And I'm very happy that UDA, my party, has come out very clearly that my good brother, who you served with in the Senate, a young lawyer, Cherargei, is speaking on his own. I don't think I want to belabor the point. Americans have got a 4-year term limit. And there have been presidents who've only been elected once, and they were not re-elected, like Donald Trump. He's trying to come back. Right. So you cannot therefore extend the term. I know, for example, in Switzerland, they have a 7-year term limit of 7 individuals who are president for 1 year each. So from each of the 7 cantons. And they have managed it very well. I have had the privilege in the past of meeting one of them when he was president. And Switzerland is one of the most successful societies in the world, actually. It's a good place if you go to Geneva.
How do they elect that one person?
The 7, if I get it right, the 7 are elected from the cantons, then they form like a council. Then they rotate. Like you elect Maura, Sam, and then we serve, collegiate, but then 1 year, everybody takes a turn. I'm sure they agree how each one, who will be the first and who will be the last. In that way, so you have like a chairman of the 7, and it really helps. And it has really made the country to be very successful. And because they are multinational, they are multicultural. They are the Flemish, they are the French, the German. So they are able to help that kind of, division. And it was, at some point, it was considered, by the way, at independence, to be one of the things that we could have borrowed. In fact, it was the basis of Majimboism. if you remember that term. But now that we have gone pure presidential and we are following the American Washington consensus, the 2-term limit is okay. These are nexus, by the way, Sam, and we need to be objective in this conversation. If you look at Africa, when we got independence, a lot of presidents served for many, many terms, and it was necessary for them to consolidate the base of their country. So you have Jomo Kenyatta 15 years, you have Julius Kambarage Nyerere 25 years, and you can go on and on and on. But since the 90s, at the advent of multipartyism, then you have these 2 terms, and more often than not, a president will serve his 2 terms and move on. And that is what UDA was clamoring for when we were saying that we do away with the dynasties, so that hustlers can also rise to become president. So it has not changed. President Ruto has just done his 1-year term. We hopefully pray that he will be re-elected, and I urge Kenyans to re-elect him, give him more time to attain his agenda. Okay. But after 2 terms, we move on to the next, and that is the position, that is the constitution. Anything else can only be extra-constitutional, Sam, and you would require to have a referendum on it. It's a very serious issue.
Okay, all right. And Mheshimiwa Farah Maalim is the MP for Dadaab constituency. Good morning.
Morning to you. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you so much for joining this conversation. And is there any essence of really even having this conversation? Because we have some neighboring countries that have not been able to transition in terms of into term limits. But is there any evidence to show that indeed serving for long means well for a country? Is there any case that you'd make for 7 years times 2?
I certainly see a case for changing the system we have right now. I think the presidential system is a failure. We made a mistake in the first place going the presidential way. We should have gone for a parliamentary way. A prime minister who comes and attends parliament, who has a constituency, who is accountable to Kenyans on the floor of the house, and who has a deputy or 2 deputies as the head of the government, and a ceremonial president who is there just as a figurehead who literally plays the role that the Queen played in the United Kingdom, and has only a limited role of meeting envoys and the rest of it. So I do see a strong case for us to transit from where we are now to move into a new system. But the issue of saying 2 terms of 7 years each for a presidential for presidents, I don't think it's right. If anything, let's change from the system the way we have it right now and go parliamentary.
And in that process
because look, this constitution has been with us now for 13 years. We had a kind of a hybrid before. We had a president, but who also was from a constituency. The late Mwai Kibaki was the MP for Odaya.
Right.
The late Moi was the MP for Kabarnet Central, am I right?
Baringo Central.
Baringo Central. Baringo Central. The late Kenyatta, the first president of the country, was the MP for Gatundu.
Gatundu, yes, the whole of it.
Yes. So we literally got that 2 together, because the president could do a lot of things and literally be accountable to the country through being a member of parliament also. It made a bit of sense that time of marrying the 2 together. But later on, we decided that we were going to transit and have either a pure parliamentary system or a pure presidential. The fact that we went the presidential system was wrong, in my opinion, from the beginning. And I was not too keen on it. I wanted us to go the parliamentary system. So parliamentary system, a prime minister can be there for 2 years, he can be there for 20 years. Netanyahu has been there for how long now?
He goes in, comes out.
Goes in and out.
He's from the de facto prime minister.
He is there for the longest, you know what I mean? And accountable to the people always on the floor of the house. And you can see him there. He has to do a certain role.
But what role? I mean, how would you elect the president who is ceremonial?
He's not elected. He is actually nominated by the ruling party.
By Parliament.
Well, Parliament actually is the one which ratifies that.
Okay.
But usually it's the party with the majority that decides on a statesman, somebody who's acceptable across the board. And I remember, for example, in India, one time they had that nuclear scientist, that very famous nuclear scientist, Alam somebody. And in many countries, that's what they normally do. They have somebody who's respected, who is a retired judge. You get my point. or a scientist or a professor in the university or somebody who essentially is a statesman is accepted widely across. But again, is nominated by the party that has the majority in the House, and then passed by the House itself. It's ratified by the House, but he has ceremonial functions there. He has ceremonial functions there.
Okay, all right.
But he doesn't have any executive powers, by the way. Very limited executive powers. And that includes asking the Prime Minister to form the government. Every time there's an election, and you know, he looks at the party that has the numbers. Sometimes in this multi-party system, nobody has an absolute majority. So one is now forced to create coalitions.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Is this something you'd been keen on pursuing?
Oh yes, I've been keen on pursuing this from day one. Because that way the country is going to be united. That way anybody can become the Prime Minister, and we will never see ethnic clashes because it's a question of the party that has the numbers.
Okay.
You see what I mean? It has nothing to do with the numbers, you know, the community numbers or those kind of things. It doesn't have anything to do with that. Just the party that has the biggest numbers in terms of members of parliament, and that's it. And that's why Touroudou of Canada, is still there. I don't know how many, which time is he serving now? His third term or what is it? He's a young man. He's been around for quite a while. And that's why Tony Blair was there for the longest. You see what I mean? That's why Winston Churchill kept on going and coming back the same way Momoura is talking about me going and coming back. You know what I mean? Winston Churchill goes and comes back.
Okay, all right.
So basically what I'm saying is that that's the system. I think we need to interrogate and audit our constitution right now because we have cabinet ministers who are not accountable to anybody. CSs, these are civil servants, these are what do you call corporate bankers, these are economists, these are those people to run a system. They are not accountable to anybody. But when you have a prime minister, then the ministers come from parliament.
Okay.
And a community is in a position to understand as much as possible that cabinet also reflects the face of Kenya. And again, you can have a party that has following in every part of the country. Every party will be forced to campaign and literally be involved in the development of every part of this country. You just don't put some 2-3 communities together and say, I have an absolute majority right now and I don't care about anybody. I'm just going to develop the areas. You know what I mean?
All right.
So these are the kind of things that I think we need to look at very closely and see how we can.
Okay, I hear you. Of course, the proposal is specific to the Senator of Nandi, Samson Cherargei, is speaking about the 7-year term. But of course, there are many other issues that are being tabled before the National Dialogue Committee. Different communities are presenting their memoranda, stating that they have been marginalized for many years and they want that corrected. We also have seen the Political Parties Liaison Committee saying that they agree there should be an audit of the 2022 presidential election. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we continue with the conversations, including matters of politics, but also what you need to think about concerning the country. Stay tuned.